It started small, so small you'd barely notice. A single delicate spider web strung across the corner of a window frame. I remember smiling, actually, thinking it was just a part of an old house. I brushed it away with my hand and didn't think about it again. But the next morning it was back. Only this time, it was thicker. The threads were darker, somehow more deliberate. I cleaned it again. And the next day, it was back, and there was another one draped over my favorite coffee mug. I'm a clean person, you know, meticulous. So this drove me crazy. I started a routine. Every morning I'd hunt for them, wiping down every surface, every corner, every damned inch of my apartment. But it was like trying to empty the ocean with a teaspoon. The more I cleaned, the more they appeared. They were no longer just in the corners. They were on my toothbrush, inside my shoes, woven into the pages of the book I was reading. They felt sticky, unnatural, like they were made of something other than silk, something heavier. Soon I started seeing the weavers. At first it was just a glimpse out of the corner of my eye, a tiny black shape skittering across the floor at work, disappearing under a desk before I could get a good look. Then one was on my computer screen, crawling over a spreadsheet. I yelped and slapped at it, but my hand went right through. Nothing was there. My coworker Sarah just looked at me. "You okay, Marcus?" she asked, her voice laced with concern. I just stared at my screen. "Yeah," I stammered. "Just thought I saw something." She didn't see it. No one ever did. They started appearing everywhere. On the bus, a fat, hairy one would be sitting on the shoulder of the person in front of me. In the grocery store, they'd be nestled among the apples, their multiple black eyes glinting under the fluorescent lights. My reflection became a house of horrors. Sometimes I'd see one crawling on my own face in the mirror, and I'd flinch back, heart pounding, only to look again and see nothing. The worst were the dreams. I'd dream I was lying in bed, paralyzed, as thousands of them, big and small, swarmed over me, spinning their thick gray threads until I was completely cocooned, unable to breathe, unable to scream. I started to wonder, am I losing my mind? The silence in my apartment became the loudest thing I'd ever heard. It was a listening silence. I'd sit perfectly still and I could hear it. A soft, dry, chittering sound. The sound of a million tiny legs crawling just behind the walls, under the floorboards, in the ceiling. Sometimes I'd hear whispers tangled in the rustling sounds, indecipherable words that felt ancient and hungry. I couldn't stay there. I packed a bag, my hands shaking so badly I could barely zip it up, and ran. I checked into a cheap motel on the other side of town. The room smelled like bleach and desperation. For a moment I felt a wave of relief. But as I turned to lock the door, I saw it. A single perfect thread stretching from the doorknob to the frame. They had followed me. They were always with me. There was no escape. I ran from city to city, hotel to hotel. But the webs were always there waiting for me. Or they'd appear within minutes of my arrival. This wasn't random. This wasn't just in my head. One night, huddled in yet another sterile room, staring at the intricate web being spun over the television screen, I finally understood. I was watching the spider and it was watching me back. Its movements weren't erratic, they were precise, intelligent. Every strand it laid was a line in a vast, complex pattern. I realized with a cold dread that froze the blood in my veins that all the webs, all the spiders were connected. They were extensions of a single vast consciousness, a mind that was weaving this reality around me, for me. It wasn't just building webs in my world. It was building my world out of webs. Every thought, every fear, every memory, it was all being woven into this grand, terrifying tapestry. I was its masterpiece. And that's when the final soul-crushing horror slammed into me. I stumbled outside, gasping for air, and looked up at the night sky. The stars weren't stars. They were glittering nodes connected by faint, shimmering filaments that crisscrossed the entire expanse of the heavens. The streetlights cast long, sticky shadows that looked like threads anchoring the buildings to the ground. The trees, the cars, the people walking by, everything was part of it. The entire world, my entire existence, was one single colossal web. And I had been thrashing in the center of it all along, thinking I was trying to get away. But all my running, all my fear, it just tangled me deeper. I stopped running. I looked down at my hands. And for the first time, I saw the impossibly fine, translucent threads tied around each of my fingers, leading off into the darkness. I wasn't just caught in the web. I was the web. My mind, my life, my reality. Just another strand in the trap. And the spider is always watching, always weaving,